Wow, I didn't think I'd be this nervous. I know everyone starts by asking a question, so I'm going to follow the norm and ask a few questions. So raise your hand if you went to the countryside growing up. Wow. Okay. Raise your hand if being in nature was a staple of your childhood. Amazing. Now, I didn't grow up in the outdoors. Don't get me wrong, we did have our moments when we would spend time in nature, but they were very few and far between. So whether you spent or didn't spend a considerable time in nature, let's all ponder this question. Who does nature belong to? When we think about who nature belongs to, what images does that bring up for you? What do you see? Who do you see? I'm going to spare nominating a volunteer to answer the question and answer it myself. Who does nature belong to? Everyone and no one. Brilliant. So I have multiple identities and I wear multiple hats. I'm a sister, I'm an auntie, I'm a black woman, I'm a Christian, and I have the most amazing, rich Nigerian heritage. And since 2018, I started to identify as a hiker. So if you had told my, So if you had told my teenage self that I would love hiking and be even working towards becoming a qualified mountain leader, I would have laughed in your face and I would have told you, black people don't hike. Very matter-of-factly. Chimamanda Adichie has a TED Talk about the dangers of the single story. Having our worldview of particular people and places shaped by a single story of or narrative. Black people don't hike. That was my single story because I didn't see anybody that looked like me in nature, let alone hiking. In my eyes, hiking was represented as a white middle-class pastime that was reserved for the wealthy and the privileged, everything I wasn't. And when we did venture out to more rural areas, we were met with the usual shuffles, shifts, looks, outright racism, and general unwelcoming environments. So that's what I believed. My experiences mixed with the images of who I thought nature belonged to. That was the single story I had about the outdoors. So when I tell people that I love hiking, and it's absolutely my favorite thing to do in my spare time, I'm usually met with surprise and mild astonishment. And that same single story, black people don't hike. So the benefits of being in nature and spending time outdoors is well documented, but not everyone gets to access and enjoy nature equally. The 2018/19 survey on people and the natural environment found ethnic communities have an average 11 times less access to green spaces. And of the time people from Black, Asian, minority ethnic backgrounds do spend in green spaces, only 15% of it is in the countryside, compared to 38% for people from white backgrounds. In the same report, participants who have easy walking distance to their green space are more likely to be aged 35 to 64, those from white backgrounds, those who live in the most affluent areas, and those who live in more rural areas. So during lockdown, I don't know about anybody else, but I know for me, nature became the thing that kept me going. However, lockdown also showed even more the inequalities that exist in access to nature and green spaces. Especially in urban areas, access to green spaces doesn't always guarantee it's of sufficient quality. In the 2012/21 People and Nature Survey for England, when participants were asked if they agree being in nature makes them happy, Those from Black or Black British backgrounds were less likely to agree than any other ethnicity. Those who were most likely to agree were people from white backgrounds. So what does this tell us? What does this say to people who don't fit into those categories? Nature doesn't care about them. Does it tell them that they're not good enough for good or sufficient quality or access to nature? Does it tell them that they should expect to be neglected or excluded? So remember I said it wasn't until 2018 I would identify as a hiker. What was so special about 2018? Absolutely nothing. But I finally gave in to my friend's incessant requests and joined him on local hikes over the weekend. Those weekend hikes, reluctantly learning how to navigate with a compass, read a map, take a bearing, led me to Dartmoor, where Oge the hiker was born. So here I am, wearing a fleece I picked up the night before from my local Asda. I'm wearing my younger sister's waterproof jacket that is 2 sizes too small. I'm wearing the most baggy jogging bottoms and even heavier hiking boots. But the smile on my face reminds me that I was in my element. On the heels of my first few adventures and solo hikes, I was noticing more and more that when I did see someone that looked like me on the trail, which wasn't very often, there was a sense of enthusiasm that bubbled inside. I wanted to explore that more, what it would be like to gather a group of Black women and go hiking. Then while scrolling through Instagram, I came across Black Girls Hike. I was quickly introduced to Rianne, who is the founder, and we bonded over our mutual passion for hiking. She told me about how she started Black Girls Hike to challenge the lack of diversity and representation in the outdoors, and asked me to join as a regional leader in April 2020. What I love about Black Girls Hike isn't just about what we challenge, what we're about in community, curiosity, and empowerment. Community for us is about providing a safe space for Black women to explore the outdoors with other Black women. Curiosity is that we want to offer experiences that many Black women may have brushed to the side due to a lack of representation and visibility. And empowerment is that we want to give the opportunity and confidence for Black women to explore the outdoors and push themselves, even if that means never hiking again. So I saw all these three things come together when I led my first London hike in Epping Forest. I honestly thought a maximum of 30 people would turn up. As I arrived at the station, at the meeting point, I was greeted by a full-on crowd. As the train doors were opening every 2 to 3 minutes, there were more and more Black women that were flooding off the platform into the car park. To say the least, I was extremely overwhelmed. I was more overwhelmed at the fact that I had to lead them and we couldn't get lost. It was a phenomenal moment hiking through the forest. Seeing women across different generations, hearing stories, walking, talking, it was amazing. And also being able to share that same enthusiasm as hiking with other Black women. At one point, I was able to do a head count, and I counted 100 Black women. So there's me again, with my cheesy grin and the biggest smile on my face, reminding me again that I was in my element. And this was us, 100 Black women disrupting that single story. Who does nature belong to? Everyone and no one. Everyone has a place and a part to play. We all have a collective responsibility and we all have a collective power to do things differently. Nature doesn't belong to anyone more than anyone else, and it shouldn't be reserved for the few. So what single stories do we hold about nature, about ourselves, and about our climate? Who's included and excluded? My last question to you is, how can we use our collective power, our voice, and our influence to disrupt those single stories? Thank you.